They do a conditional assessment, so there's several things that go into it. One is as they go out and assess the systems throughout the district, they try to prioritize the ones that are at highest risk of failure, whether it be, you get the most complaints about an area of collapsed pipes or backups or something like that. So that's one factor. But they also try to factor in, geography, such that if you're going to have a contract to go out and reline pipes, you try to group some. So all of these on this, because we started here, all of these are not the most at-risk pipes in the district, but the ones that we're doing within this area are such that in order to make it cost-effective to do this grouping, maybe some of them are not at the most risk, but at a moderate risk, and they can kind of be combined to get the most cost-effective rehab. So you couldn't look at one and say that because we're relining that pipe, that's going to fail next week. We don't have that level of specificity. Okay, great. Thank you very much for having us tonight.
Thank you so much. We're glad you could come out. Mr. Briggs, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, before we go to the bike lane discussion, can we, members of the commission, if you recall, we did not have a letter ready to be given to the court. Mr. Moulton has graciously gotten one ready for us to present to the court. And I know you haven't had much time to look at it, but can we get a motion to allow Mr. Moulton to present this on our behalf to the court? Do you want to make any other comment?
Yeah, I talked to Roger Kemp, our community liaison to the Solicitor's office. He looked at it, he reviewed it, he gave it a thumbs up. So all it needs is your approval.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we approve the letter regarding the sentencing of Tyrone Wade, addressed to Judge Leibowitz, with some minor edits that I will provide to Mr. Moulton.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstention? Looks like those are typographical
Yep.
kinds of errors. Thank you, Martin. We always appreciate
Yep.
the work that you do for us. I graciously say thank you. Okay, is there someone here to talk about the bike lane? You're the person for that? You're a person? Well, come on, a person, come on up and tell us about this.
Well, we were supposed to have Darren Buck from VDOT here.
Darren Buck?
We requested him, but I don't see him in the room. So I have a specific recommendation for the commission's consideration, but if you want to take comments from the audience.
Okay, as everyone knows, there is being considered 4 different alternatives for a bike lane that's going to go into our AMC area. Did any of you attend the meeting, the public meeting the other night? Are you the other day, and you're aware of what it's about? Okay. I'm not sure of all 4, but let me say I know one of the. You want to run just through the 4 choices?
And there was also a no-build alternative.
Okay, so 5 alternatives. Okay. No bill.
So the idea is to provide protected bicycle lanes to allow bicyclists to more safely traverse through our jurisdiction, going north to south and south to north, just as the 15th Street protected bike lane has accomplished on the western end of downtown. The idea is to create a parallel situation on the eastern end of downtown to help to promote bicycle safety. So there is one option which involves a pair of bike lanes, one a northbound lane on 5th Street and then a southbound lane on 6th Street. There are two Sixth Street alternatives. One which has both northbound and southbound traffic on one side of the street, and another alternative which has one lane going north on the east side of the street and one lane going south on the west side of the street. There is a 9th Street alternative which would have both north and southbound lanes on the east side of 9th Street. So while there are also repercussions for traffic, parking, pedestrians, bicyclists south of our jurisdiction, we're primarily concerned about the impacts on our part of the proposed areas. So there are parking disruptions, loss of parking. In some cases, the parking disruptions are only during rush hours. In other cases, they are permanent losses of parking 7 days a week. There are proposed accommodations for church parking on Sundays on blocks where church parking is already present. There are obviously pedestrian impacts and major impact in terms of vehicular traffic relates to an increase in time that it would take vehicles to traverse the area where the protected cycle track would be located. On some of the streets, it's a modest number of minutes. On other streets, it's a more significant number of minutes during rush hour periods. So those 4 alternatives are now open to public comment and available on the website, which I'm sure someone has the URL available that we can share with everyone. So the comment period, I believe, is on for a few more days. Anyone have a date? What's the date?
March 15th.
Until March the 15th. One of the things that I observed, and I would think that the other commissioners that were present at the public event at the kids' school a couple of weeks ago should also offer their observation. But one of the things that I noted, and I spoke to Darren Buck and Sam Zimbabwe and Jim Sebastian and others from DDOT, including the director, is that they have not analyzed whether or not 6th Street, which seems to be where most of the folks that are commenting or that are in favor of protected cycle tracks are directing their support, what the impact would be if 6th Street were made a one-way street. So folks who are familiar with the 15th Street cycle track know that it's a wide street. It's roughly the same width as 6th Street. And by virtue of the fact that it's a one-way street, it's able to accommodate many more of the uses and capacities than if you have a two-way street. So you have additional travel lanes, you have additional parking lanes, you have the protected cycle track, and by virtue of the fact that all the traffic is going in the same direction all the time, the traffic is able to move more efficiently. Now, 15th Street was one way before the installation of the cycle track. If we make a change to 6th Street, that is a change, and logically, the traffic that is in the direction that is not being supported by a one-way street would have to be accommodated on other streets that already do have some level of capacity load that they're dealing with. But the folks from DDOT said that they had not analyzed that they thought that it was worth consideration. They've looked to see whether or not there were any federal regulations that might restrict that, because federal highway funding is involved in the maintenance of 6th Street. They haven't found anything that would restrict that. So one of the things that I'd like the commission this evening to consider is making a recommendation that 6th Street, the converting Sixth Street to one-way going south in the area between Rhode Island Avenue and New York Avenue be studied as part of the analysis that's being undertaken by DDOT for the protected cycle track alternatives.
I would disagree with that assessment. That's the first I've heard of Sixth Street being entertained for one way.
I'm the one that suggested it, so no one else has brought it up.
But the other traffic would go what, to Fifth?
Would get distributed, you know, to where it would
So,
flow.
but this is the Alex plan, so why don't
Yeah,
we?
this is just a recommendation line.
I wouldn't support that recommendation.
No,
Sounds like
no,
it's easy for
no.
how we go to them, one way south. No, it's too
I mean,
No, we gotta talk about the bike lanes, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we but
Okay,
DDOT not here, so
these are,
how we gonna
the-
implement
those, so those are the alternatives that we have in front of us. We will allow a certain amount of time right now for people to make comments. Please be as brief as you can, because, you know, we're not going on and on and on. If you have something very lengthy, you can address it to the website more specifically. But we do want to hear from people who have concerns or who are in favor of the bike lanes in our area. So, I know that the gentleman in the back, are you here to support or not? You want to make a statement?
I'd be happy to talk about it, sure.
Okay, you're gonna only get about 2 minutes. Okay, do you wanna come up front, do you wanna, and can I see a hand, so I know how many people are actually waiting to speak on this issue? Okay,
Good evening, thanks for having us here and talking about this issue. My name is Phil Copeman, I'm one of the owners of Bicycle Space. We're down on 440K. We've been in the neighborhood at several different locations over the past 6 years now. And I also work closely with the Washington Area Bicycle Association on their advocacy efforts. And the goal overall is to create a connected and protected bike network, so people who don't necessarily feel comfortable riding with traffic have an option for choosing to ride where they don't now, either in terms of their actual safety or their perceived safety. And this goes from people, you know, from a young age to older citizens as well. Really trying to accommodate a broad range of skills and comfortability on the streets. In particular, the Sixth Street option with 2 lanes together on one side seems to have been had the most support from the bicycle community. We feel it's a compromise because a 2-lane cycle track is not ideal for bicycling in terms of safety and conflicts at intersections and that kind of thing, but it does provide a connected way to go between downtown and the Shaw area. It also has the least impact on parking on Sundays. It would eliminate, I think, at most 10 spaces on the weekend parking and have less impact on the daytime parking than that. And you know, I've talked to several other businesses in the area who have been generally supportive. Cyclists tend to drive more local business because they stop along the way, whereas cars tend to drive by. So they spend less each visit, but they do visit more. It's also a very effective way to move people around the city. We have a lot of increased population within the city, and we're not going to be able to drive everywhere. So we do need to support alternatives to that. And it's a very efficient way of using public funds to do that. Overall, it's really about sharing the public space and making the streets as safe as we can for everybody, not just for cyclists, but for pedestrians who have problems in that corridor, and for drivers as well. And the impact on driving, particularly on the 6th Street alternative with the 2-lane cycle track, is actually improved in one direction and minimally impacted in the other. So the travel times will be not greatly increased even during rush hour at those locations. So again, I'd be happy to talk to people individually about this. You can get more information at the Washington Area Bicycles Association website, waba.org, is information on the cycle track there. And I think it's really going to be an asset to the community in the long run. This 15th Street cycle track had a lot of opposition initially, and has really been a great asset over there. It slowed traffic down, made things safer for the community. Kids can cross the street safer and all that. I think in the past year there have been like a dozen collisions. over in that area, so it really is a big safety issue, as well as just a quick way to get around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Sir, you wanted to make a statement? Okay.
Thank you. My name is Apostle Green with the United House of Prayer, and I wanted to make a brief statement. And I understand clearly the concerns of the bicycle community, but I would respectfully hope that the bicycle community will also be sensitive to the local community that has lived, that has resided in that 1200 block all along the 6th Street corridor. I have lived in the community for 40 years. And in the 40 years that I've lived there, I have noticed that bicycles and the United House of Prayer and the various churches on the 6th Street corridor, namely Galbraith Church, First Rise of Mount Zion, the United House of Prayer, Springfield Baptist, there may be one that I'm missing, have peacefully coexisted for the 40 years that I've lived there. Because I live there, I know for a fact, it doesn't take a bicycle study for me to understand that there are no deaths and accidents. Bicyclists are not being killed along 6th Street. I lived there. I lived there for 40 years. The beautiful thing is that with bicycle lanes across the city, to omit 6th Street from the bicycle protected lanes is not fatal to the bicycle program. The bicycle program throughout the district can go fine. It would be fatal to the United House of Prayer, to the other churches. And so it would be wonderful if we could peacefully coexist. And there's another important consideration that DDOT has not addressed. They have at least modified the 4 proposals, so there are now 5 proposals on the table. The 5th proposal is to maintain the status quo, and it is to not build bicycle lanes, and so the bicyclists can continue to traverse 6th Street as they have for the past 40 years that I've lived there. The important thing is there are traffic impacts that have been fatally overlooked in the study. And the traffic impacts come regularly. Now, I went on the website today. President Obama, and this is on the White House website, this is not confidential information, it's not secret information. The presidential website indicates that there will be a nuclear summit in Washington, D.C. at the Convention Center at the end of March of this year. That nuclear summit will involve world leaders throughout the world coming to the Convention Center. When that happens, I've been here for 40 years, so it's happened before. Is anyone aware of what happens when the nuclear summit takes place at the Convention Center?
Yes.
They shut down 7th Street. You know where the traffic
And
goes?
9th Street.
To 6th Street. Well, I'm just saying where the traffic goes. The buses and all automobiles come to 6th Street. And I've lived there for 40 years, so this happens over and over. Even when there's a presidential inauguration and the Convention Center hosts the inaugural balls, 7th Street shuts down. You know where the traffic comes? To 6th Street. So consider, please, not only the convenience of the bicyclists, but what happens to the traffic on 6th Street when you eliminate 1 or 2 of the travel lanes to make it convenient for the bicyclists? You have to look beyond the narrow needs of bicyclists and consider the needs of the entire community. I don't know how many have been in the area when not only at the Convention Center or the national security events, but the Washington Auto Show. How many have come through 6th Street when the auto show is in bloom at Convention Center? How many realize the traffic impacts of trying to get down 6th Street with the large events that come through the Convention Center? So I respectfully, on behalf of the United House of Prayer and others who are long-term residents of that community, request that we maintain the status quo, because it will not eliminate bikes throughout the District of Columbia, but it will be fatal to the United House of Prayer and the various churches who not only worship on Sunday, Madam Chair. The United House of Prayer worships on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday. We have morning sunrise service at 6:30. We have noonday service. We have 7:30 service every evening, 24/7 of the week. We're not talking about a Sunday activity. And maybe there are some who are now coming into the community that are not aware of that. And in fact, there are many, and we don't disrespectful to unchurched and don't have any place to go on Sunday. We just ask you to be sensitive to those who are churched and who go to worship on Sundays, on Mondays, on Tuesdays, on Wednesdays. And I would respectfully request, let's all live together. Let's not change the community after 40 years. The old adage is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so
So
much.
I support the no bill option, which is an option. But it's not being
I
expressed.
recognize what you have to say. Thank you so very much for your comment. Is there anyone else? Lydia? Come on. Oh, I thought he was giving the floor to
No,
Carl.
the hitters first.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir.
Thank you very much. Fred Massey Galbraith, the Edge Zion Church, one of the churches that was mentioned by Apostle Green. I won't be very long. I, like Apostle Green, didn't hear a lot of discussion on no option. What we want to say to you as pastors, excuse my back, I don't want to put my back to anybody. but
Face
it's
the
very
audience, you're
difficult
fine,
to stand
sir.
here. But as a group of pastors who are also bikers, we're saying that the option of no bill does not mean to do nothing at all. That's the first thing we want to make clear. The second thing is, we are not anti-bikers, nor are we anti-bike lane. I've been there 20 years half the time as part of it. All we're simply saying is, it makes it extremely difficult for us, and we intend to work with you as best we can, but we're not interested in the lane. You talk about the nuclear convention center meeting. Well, just any convention center gathering, people come and park in our alley, they park in our spaces, we don't call the police. And European people, Caucasian people, you don't have the cops come and ticket them. They don't pay a dime, they just get there early in the morning and they park there. And they have been doing it for a very long time. So we're simply saying, we're used to being ignored, but we won't be easily dismissed.
Are you now the pastor, Alton?
I started in 1991, I was elder of all the churches for 5 years, in the meantime, Dr. Mary Bowman. I'm not
Okay. I'm used to seeing
sure.
Pastor Bowen, that's why I was
Sure.
a little bit taken aback. Is there anyone else? Lydia, I know you wanted to make a comment. Please come forward.
Hello. I've also been in the neighborhood for 40 years, and I live on M Street, and I happen to ride a bicycle and have been riding a bicycle for 40 years, before it became fashionable. I do find I support the bike lanes on 6th Street. As you're trying to go through the city, and also I live on M Street, which when the auto show is here, when the president is at the convention center, whatever happens, it's not only that, but every single day, I live with traffic coming down my street. I cannot get down the street if the rush hour in the morning and the evening. So if you have to live with it, you have to accept it. And I accept the traffic. I live here, and I know that they're going to use M Street as a thoroughfare. But I feel that I should be able to also, since I happen to walk, drive, and I have a car, and I have a bicycle. My bicycle is outside right now. I ride my bicycle all the time. So I feel that as a resident, and there's a lot of us here who do support the bike lanes in our neighborhood, or for people coming down, I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Ms. Lydia. Martin? This will be the last comment. I don't think, if there's nobody else waiting, is there?
I have a question, not a comment.
Okay.
I'll be brief. I'm on the board of the Washington Area Bicycle Association, so we have a bias, but I also have a bias because I've actually been hit by cars almost 12 times, once as a pedestrian in the city. And biking on 6th Street, which I do nearly every single day, is terrifying. Now for the people who drive around the city in cars, in your little tanks, you have no idea what it's like to have a car knock you off your bicycle, knock you off the street, and throw you 15 feet in the air. 6th Street is super dangerous, and we have to do something to mitigate the danger for everyone who bikes down that street.
Thank you, Martin. Anybody on the commission wish to make a statement?
I, for one, am not unsympathetic to the bikers. I too bike. but I just try to bike on streets that are not as busy as 6th Street. But the constituents that I represent, they are against bike lanes on 6th Street because of the traffic flow north and southbound going on 6th Street. Again, we're not unsympathetic to bikers, but I think we can peacefully exist. And I'm hoping that we can come to a conclusion, DDOT or the powers that be can make the right decision, because we're not unsympathetic, we're not heartless people. But the constituents that I represent, they will prefer the bike lanes not be on 6th Street. So I will support the no build on 6th Street. We still have 9th Street to consider. Right now, bikers are coming down 7th Street, but the official bike lanes, they stop at the corner of 7th and N. So I would even entertain looking at 9th Street, but my constituents I support, or who I represent, do not represent bike lanes on 6th
On
Street.
6th.
On 6th.
Would you pass to Michelle, please?
So just be real quick, I'll state my position so it's, people understand. I just want to say to Dr. Massey that, you know, when you said you don't call police, is that what you said? I want you to call the police, okay? Because we call the police all the time on people who don't park correctly, all right? So do me a favor and call the police. But I am pro bike lane, but for my area, I'm pro bike lane down 9th Street first, okay? Because that is on 9th Street, not 6th Street. If it has to be 6th Street, I prefer what they call option 3, alternative 3. So that'll be less less of a problem for the angled parking and all that. So I understand that. I certainly, as everyone knows in this room, I certainly deal with the church parking issue almost on a daily basis. So I get that. So for us, for 6004, I certainly would prefer the 9th Street option primarily.
I think what Reverend Massey was referring to is when the convention center holds car shows, whatever it holds. I live on 5th Street. Sometimes I can't park in front of my house because there's people who come in my community and take up my parking space. I don't call the police on those people, but they have a right to live there. I oftentimes believe that the District of Columbia has come very unfriendly to a Marylander or Virginian. You know, so that's part of what he's referring to. They have a right to park on public streets.
Not in
So
the alley, they don't. Not in that alley,
well, I'm
they don't.
referring to public streets. So sometimes when I can't
Beyond 2
park.
hours.
Beyond 2 hours, they will
Beyond
take
2
it.
hours.
Okay, we gotta go. Move on, yeah.
Beyond 2
Call
hours, they
police.
will
That's
take
their
it.
zone.
Yeah, not in the.
Florida's visiting
Comment?
sticker.
I'd just like to say for the record that my constituents, mostly all of my constituents that I've spoken to about this, they are very much pro bike lane. I am, during the informational meeting that was about the bike lanes, there were several options. I wish I had brought them with me, but there are several options that will have minimal impact on the parking. And I believe that we can find a medium where there are safety for the I did have, and I don't have time to go through them right now.
Okay.
I thank you for presenting that to me. If I knew that we were going to be deciding on the options tonight, I would have been prepared. But I did mention at the meeting the options that I favored. And I believe that there can be a medium where we can have a protected bike lane that will be for bikers for their own protection. And I don't believe that bikers want to get hit, and I don't think cars want to hit them. And I think that having a bike lane will mitigate such problems.
I also support the establishment of protected cycle tracks. I've seen bicyclists get hit. I've seen memorials around town to bicyclists that have been killed. I think that it's possible to have compromises so that other users, churches, businesses, and residents all are able to feel that they are not being discriminated against or that they are not being impacted more than others, trying to share the pain, if you will. Everybody can't get what they want, but everyone should feel that some of their needs are being met. I do know that I've heard a lot of concerns about 9th Street being more dangerous as a prospective location for the protected bicycle lanes because of the large amount of tractor trailer traffic that's on 9th Street going into the convention center through the loading docks that are accessed from 9th and M Streets, and also the tractor trailers and other trucks that go into the loading docks for the Giant at City Market that are also accessed over 9th Street. The fact that there are 2 churches on the block, I counted a total of 9 curb cuts on the blocks that would be affected by the potential protected cycle track. Those are all challenges for those bicyclists to be able to navigate. And also the fact that you would take parking spaces during the business day off of 9th Street, that would have a negative impact on businesses on 9th Street as well.
Thank you, Alex. I am in favor of bike lanes. Which of the alternatives am I set on exactly? I don't have an answer for you guys tonight. I am not so sure that 6th Street is the best answer unless 6th Street would only be Monday to Friday. And that people in the 5 or 6 churches along 6th Street then would not be affected on Sunday. But I think it's necessary because we are pushing for a livable, walkable community, and bike riding is a big part of my community, Mount Vernon Triangle. I think in my area, practically everybody, except if you're over 70, has a bike. And so I think it's probably necessary, and it's a major way for people to get around the community. But I don't have a preference right now as to which one is the best alternative. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be much help this evening. Do we want to send something to the city? Do we have to do it from this meeting? Question. Yes.
Just an informational question. I was there and saw the alternatives presented. Question as to whether, as to why 11th Street, which already has bike traffic without protected lanes, why that's not among the considerations for protected lane. Was that considered, that anybody knows about?
You want to answer that?
DDOT was looking for something further to the east because they already have the protected bike lane connected to the other facilities on 15th Street. They're trying to provide something further